Shalom, friends. Rabbi Weiss here, and I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is that after all these months, my video is finally working again. The bad news is that my video is working again. And as we prepare for Shabbat, we're going to read Parashat VaYakhel. I wanted to share with you some personal reflections on this parasha, a very personally important one to me, because actually tomorrow marks the 25th anniversary of the clandestine bat mitzvah I organized when I was 13 years old at my sister's college campus. And I started to think about that weekend and the joys it brought and all of the amazing experiences, which began with Friday night services, after which the Gabbai came up to me and shared with me the 9 saddest words in the English language. Actually, we do the Sephardic Haftarah, so it's longer. So then I had to learn an extra part of my Haftarah the night before, but it was fine. We made it work. It was all good. I, however, refused to deliver the Dvar Torah that morning because I felt, A, I was very young, B, I felt very intimidated to deliver to these college students. So instead, the same Gabbai gave an extraordinary Dvar Torah. I remember just a little bit of it, and it had to do with a category of skilled laborers, these women who were of wise heart, our tradition tells us, who contributed to the building of the Mishkan. Now, I didn't remember exactly what he'd shared, and I made it my business this year to track him down. Easy to track, it's Rabbi Ethan Tucker, and ask him, what did you speak of at my bat mitzvah? And he wrote a beautiful response, very gracious, saying actually it was off the cuff, but that's the beautiful ephemerality of impromptu Torah, beautiful letter. Meanwhile, I really wanted to piece together what he might have said. So I started asking some friends around, doing some digging about different sources about these women, because it's very unusual to have women mentioned in such an explicit way, especially when it comes to construction. And these women were mentioned mostly in the category of spinning and weaving and creating the tapestries of the tabernacle. There's a very interesting verse that comes out of the 35th chapter of Exodus that says, which means every woman who in her hands wove or spun in plural. And the question begs, as Mam Loez raises, why is it that it's talking about one woman and then it suddenly talks about a plurality in the verb of the spinning? And the idea is that she begins this holy act, and then through her energy, through her inspiration, God comes in and assists her. And this is an incredible image of how we can build community and how we can embrace our Judaism in all different ways to make it beautiful. Professor Neil Gilman from the seminary, our dear teacher of blessed memory, would often talk about the 3 H's of Judaism. There's Judaism of the head, Judaism of the heart, and Judaism of the hands. And that all of these are kind of like different spokes of the same wheel. Ideally, they converge. Ideally, there's overlap, and we at least do 2 out of the 3. But the idea is the Judaism of the head could be engaging in study, a more cerebral Judaism. The Judaism of the heart could be more ritually oriented, more prayer-based. And the Judaism of the hands is either some kind of social embodied action or some kind of way we materially carry out our Judaism. And so what I love about this notion is that it's not siloed. Yes, there are 3 different categories, but Judaism thankfully does not subscribe to a Cartesian mind-body split. Instead, it encourages us to take our totality of ourselves and apply it to the beautification, the sanctification of God and of community. And that's exactly what's going on here with these women. And there's an incredible packet that my friend and colleague, Rabbi David Wolkenfeld, shared with me, coming out of Israel this year, which is written by a group of Israeli female scholars who are proposing that this parasha be designated as a kind of celebratory exploration of women studying Torah and their contributions to Torah study. And they created this incredible packet. I'll put it right up in the link down in the comments. It's in Hebrew, but I'll be going through some of the sources tomorrow at synagogue as part of my Words of Torah. And there's an incredible blessing in there as well. And it really takes all different kinds of commentary that explores in great detail this very intriguing piece that was lifted up by Rabbi Ethan Tucker's Dvar Torah 25 years ago. And I also was reading this article the other day in the Washington Post, you might have seen, about a Ukrainian woman by the name of Oksana Mushketik, who was feeling extremely anxious given everything going on. And instead of just sitting in her basement and fretting, she decided to rally some friends together and go into the basement of a museum in Kiev and start sewing camouflage blankets for the Ukrainian military so they could hide and they could also conceal their own military weapons to defend themselves. And it became this whole community experience where these women assembled in this basement of this museum to do something to protect themselves and to apply the skills of their hands for a commitment of their hearts. And really thinking this weekend, on a more somber note, of the first ever land war in Europe since 1945. And our hearts very much are praying with our brothers and sisters in the Ukraine and praying for their safe deliverance and protection during this whole ordeal. And we hope that a peaceful resolution happens soon. And so I want to wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat of peace, and the resolution, and may the work of our hands bring goodness to the world. Shabbat Shalom.